Straight value content is dead, and if you think that making videos that are like, here are the 3 tips to achieve XYZ is going to grow your page, you are wrong. It used to work before, but now people have ChatGPT to answer literally any question they want, so they're not using social media as search engines. So there's literally no point in making value content because your 60-second video is not going to beat ChatGPT's long-ass answer. You feel me? Because we both know that there's no one tip that's going to get people the success they want. It's like hard work is what it actually takes. So what value is now is more of a paradigm shift in kind of explaining to people who you are and how you see the world and how that combines into advice that make people change what they think. Think of your videos as mini interventions for people in your niche. And the second problem, and don't get me started on this, is that everyone knows that storytelling content is ripping, but I've worked with creators anywhere from 0 to literally like 300K who do not know how to write storytelling scripts. And on top of that, they don't know how to tell their story while including any modicum of advice at all. They're kind of stuck in the old way, so I'm making this video so that everyone can kind of get onto the new way and actually grow in 2026. And not to toot my own horn, but I grew to 26K in 5 months with storytelling scripts. So get ready for some sauce, I guess. Hey. And I know half of you watching are kind of bullshitting this video. And if you just like take a second, grab a pen and paper, or like some notes and actually like apply this information, I promise it's going to work. If you actually want to be a creator, this is kind of what it takes. So please, like, you can put it on 2 times speed, just listen. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to write scripts, which are the most important part of the video, that tell your story so you can actually connect with the audience while giving some bomb-ass advice. Because at the end of the day, isn't the goal to help people? Like, you want to make value content anyways. So if you can use your story to help people through your mistakes, you're saving them time. You also have that big brother or sister vibe with your community, which is a fantastic thing to have. For the people that like to leave after the first minute and 30 seconds, the structure is polarizing hook, version 1 of yourself backstory, epiphany, version 2 with results, and then a call to action if any. And also before I dive into that structure and breaking it down and explaining what it means, I'm going to talk about the core tenets of scripting that you need to know to make your scripts not suck. Let's go. So the first core tenet is the flow of the story, arguably the most important. A lot of people think of storytelling content as like, I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. But that's really boring. Like, think if you're watching a movie and the main character was like, had to go save a princess or something, and he just like walked on into the castle and he was like, so guys, come with me. That would be like a really bad movie. So instead, when we're scripting short form, especially when we need to, maintain engagement and retention, we have to include micro conflicts. And micro conflicts act as a way to spark anticipation, which is also known scientifically as the Zeigarnik effect. You ever feel like no matter what you do, you can't get people to watch to the end of your videos? Well, I had horrible retention for the longest time until I did this one thing. But when I first started as a creator, my graphs always started out strong but fell off instantly. I had such low views that I thought I was shadow banned. But all I needed to do was pause. You see what I did there? That was the art of anticipation, and it's why you're halfway through this video. Now here's a stupidly simple process to pull it off perfectly every time. First, you need to understand the psychology behind it. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. Basically, our brains need to see the outcome of things. We can use this promise of a payoff to get viewers all the way through our video. We do this by starting with a curiosity loop. Just a question in the hook that you don't answer until the end. Then use rehooks throughout the video. These are short phrases that keep viewers engaged during the build up to the payoff. By the way, comment anticipate to get my rehook list and full retention guide. And when you put it together, the script should look like open-ended question, tease, rehook, explain, then repeat until payoff. Follow me for the next episode. And I forgot to ask, if I was to throw my phone up in the air, you would know that it's going to come down. Humans' brains infer the end of something, so we can use anticipation in our videos to make them watch to the end to see the end result of what we are talking about. Basically using delayed gratification to keep people to the end of the video. I thought it wasn't recording. That was stressful. Okay. I think of it like a wave. Basically you have the hook, which is the start of the story build up, because you want to promise a payoff. We'll get into that later. And you have some micro conflict that happens, which drops you into deep pain. And then you talk about how bad it is and how much it is and how it sucks, and you have a resolution. But then at the resolution, instead of going to the end, you have another pain that kind of brings them down. They know what the end goal you're trying to achieve is, but you're talking about the obstacles and the roadblocks that prohibited you from achieving that so fast. And then repeat that until the end of the video. And there you go. Okay. And this strategy makes the video so much more engaging so the viewer stays hooked the entire time. If you really want the script to flow, use these story sentence starters at the beginning of each sentence. So write that down. This also helps with the problem of redundancy, because I notice a lot of people that I work with will use the same phrases or words too many times in a row. And that's not how people typically talk, because your brain's kind of like programmed not to do so. So if I was like, but then this happened, but then this happened, but then this happened, it just sounds like so many buts. So instead you'd be like, but then this happened, which caused this to happen, therefore this happened. And that just like flows a lot better. And then number 2 is to keep it simple, stupid. This is really important. And I'm not kidding here. The average reading comprehension level on Instagram is at a 5th grade level. So if you use any big fancy words, 80% of viewers are just not going to be able to understand you and they're going to leave. And that kind of plays into the concept of viewer comprehension, which is basically just like their understanding of what's going on in the video. And if that ever drops off, they're just going to scroll away because they're like, I don't like this. And their brain wants to be satiated with easy slop, which is bad, obviously. A great website to do this for you is Hemingway.com. I'll put that in the description. It basically just simplifies all the big words for you and tells you when people are going to get confused. And it's free. When you have like a bunch of big long sentences, find the simplest way to squeeze them together in the easiest possible way to understand whatever you're trying to say. You can always use like Claude or something for this to help squeeze them down. That is one thing AI is good for, because if you can say something in one sentence instead of two, obviously do that. Duh. And number 3 is how to be authentic. Because everyone talks about being raw and authentic, but what does that like actually require? And in my experience, it's literally just honesty and saying what's on your mind, because why would you not do that? Every single time I create a piece of value, I'm envisioning my script being read to my younger self who desperately needs the information to get to where I am now. You want to walk them through the exact steps they need to reach the desired outcome that you've already achieved. Number 4, the last one, is the rhythm of the script. This plays into the concept of pacing. You know, when a video feels right, that is good pacing. And when a video feels like too fast or too slow, that is bad pacing, obviously. And it kind of all stems from how the script visually looks. Basically, you want your script to have like a long line, a short line, a medium line, a short line, because the varying lengths are going to contribute to how you're saying the words when you're filming. And if you have that cadence in between, you know, short, long, it's going to make the clips different lengths, which is going to help with the back and forth that you need to have the rhythm. Also, speaking in present tense, I have in my notes that I don't know what section to put this in, so it's just going to go here. It just makes things feel more actionable. Just trust me on that. So now that you have the core tenets, how do you apply those core tenets to scripting to make some fire-ass scripts that actually grow your page? If the script is the most important part of the video, the hook is the most important part of the most important part. And also keep in mind, there are 4 parts of a good hook: written, spoken, visual, and audio. We're just going to focus on the first 2, but in terms of the latter, just move a lot in the first couple of frames and throw a zoom and a whoosh when you edit. Typically, written means like a text hook. I deeply hate text hooks because they're really ugly. So instead, to supplement that, I have the captions come on the screen as I say them in spurts of like 3 to 5 words. This is a visual hook. But did you notice the 4 other hooks I used to get you past the first 3 seconds? And the rest of the captions after the hook are in like spurts of 1 to 3. Obviously, what we're talking about now is the audio hook, which is the most important because that's what you're saying and that's what you're writing in your script. And if you didn't know, rage baiting is actually how you get viral videos. Like in terms of value content, think of it as triggering a transformation. Instead of promising 3 simple steps, promise some big paradigm shift that's actually going to make a difference. And the timeline of this, you want the thing you're promising in the hook to be accomplishable in about a day, like 24 hours. And the reason you want one big paradigm shift is because if you're really trying to go in depth into something like this, just make a long form video. Like you have 60 seconds to explain a topic. You can get one topic explained fairly well in 60 seconds, but beyond that, cut things for time, then it's not going to make any sense. And then viewer comprehension is going to go down and they leave. Because with rage baiting, if you speak to the right person, you can actually make a change, and then all the chronically online people will just argue in your comments and drive engagement, which is pretty cool. Don't rage bait that much, but you yourself probably even go into the comments of a video that's like, you know, the ones I'm talking about where you're like, what is this take? And you go to the comments to see what other people say. As humans, we like to see people's opinions on polarizing topics to see if we agree or disagree with them. And then if we feel strongly enough, that is when we engage and interact. An example of this is that one of my clients, Erin, started her script with, do you know that Stimpy was Mexican? The animated dog himself is not actually Mexican, but the voice actor who did all of his noises is. And people were, for some reason, like really passionately mad about that. So her video got 600,000 views and she hit 30,000 followers. Stay mad, you know, like they had no benefit and she got an awesome viral video. And this again plays into promising a payoff. Like she said something whack and people knew that she was going to explain her point of view on something, so they stuck around to see what she was talking about. So in that scenario, they're either going to get mad or agree, and either way you have retention. And don't be scared of templates. I'll put on screen all the templates I use for a long time. Again, you should be taking notes, write these down. I'll wait. They just help me kind of take my general idea and put them in a way that's going to help me start, turn them into a story. You probably saw the words dreams and pains a lot in there, but what are those? A dream is something your audience wants but desperately hasn't reached yet. Again, we're talking to our younger selves. Think about something you wanted really bad that you now have that your audience would also want a lot. And then a pain is just something that you were too afraid to admit out loud, but once you did admit it out loud and face it, then everything went better. The goal of both these things is to literally just spark emotion. And because you're pulling from your dreams and pains, it just helps niche down your video to the right audience, which should be like a collection of your younger self, so that makes sense. Because they're going to want the exact same things that you do, so if you have an offer to sell later, they're probably going to be interested in it, or at least a hearty portion of them are. Essentially, think of every video as a funnel, so you start with a really wide broad rage baity hook, and you're working them down through the video and the story to the conversion event, which would be like a call to action or something like that. So next up is the version 1 of your self backstory. This plays into like the overarching character arc you go through in a video. Basically 3 to 4 lines of how you felt and acted when you didn't have the knowledge that you do in the latter half of the video. And you really need this to pull off the big valuable paradigm shift that we talked about before, because you can't have a paradigm shift if you're in agreement the entire video. In the backstory, they need to be like, oh, this is me. And then they see that you did something. They need to be able to replicate that something to change their way of thinking. And to do that, you just have to fill the backstory with as much pain as possible. So talk about where you were mentally and physically, how much it sucked and why. And I also typically start my backstory with like X days or years ago, just to kind of put them in the context of the time frame in the past. You want to be as specific as possible here to kind of place them in your shoes. Stop. So I spam buzzwords to help them connect the dots. For example, and I'm reading off the script here. Instead of saying X years ago I couldn't make content because there were so many decisions to make and I didn't know how to film a script or anything, I just say X years ago I would go and try to make content, but I felt so overwhelmed that I would just burn out before I started. So the incorporation of the feeling of burnout and overwhelmingness is what connects the audience to you and helps permeate the authentic honesty that we talked about before. The more open you are, the more people will connect, and I promise you there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who were where you used to be that don't want to be in that position anymore. Which leads us into the Epiphany Point. Like that little, yeah. So you've been stacking pain for like the first half of the video, and then you need to switch it to one moment where everything changed. And then in this moment of change, you were thrusted out of pain so much that you just had to share it with the world. And I truly mean an immediate moment. It can't be like, and then over the next 6 weeks, no. They're gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. It's too much effort. That's why I said it needs to be a 24-hour, very actionable epiphany. I typically say like, and then I realized, or, and then it hit me. So it just really feels like a, this can be as complex as you want, of course, in the 24-hour time frame, or it can be as simple as like, I did research and figured it out. Genuinely, I've used that before. I got like 300,000 views. It was awesome. Basically, whatever you did to go from loser butthead version of yourself to the cool, awesome version of self that you are now. And then next is the takeaway or the value section, which is the make or break point of the video. Because if people feel like you wasted their time, they will probably never watch a piece of your content again. And the way to know if your value is good is if it hurts to give away for free, or if someone would pay like $5 for it. Also, keep in mind value should be strung throughout the entire video. I mean, it does not necessarily mean practical tips. Like value can be entertainment or even emotional validation. So if someone feels heard and understood, they're gonna find the video valuable. And before, this would be the #1 trick to do XYZ. That is so stupid. Now it literally just needs to be one fat shift that wakes up the viewer, slaps them in the face, and tells them to go be awesome. And in terms of how to frame your value for people to understand it for maximum viewer comprehension, let me introduce my what, how, why structure. Like how I did that. It's basically just what the value is, how it works, and why the viewer desperately needs it. I'm reading off the script again, guys. It's getting cold. Like if the value was drinking coffee, you would say, this is coffee. It makes you less tired by caffeine blocking your sleep receptors to make you more awake. And then you need this because if you have more energy, you can get more done and win. And that's just about how in depth you need to go to get them to understand why the value is something that they need. And then typically that responds in them actually going and doing the damn thing. And keep in mind, we still want to be personal here, so don't forget to tie up any loose ends that you started in the beginning of your backstory, or even in the hook. A part of a valuable video is the satisfaction of viewer. If they are left questioning anything, they're not going to like the video as much as if you answered all the questions that they had, or led them to something that would do so. The reason I mention this is that a lot of clients of mine will try to fit like all of their knowledge base into like a 60-second video, but obviously, like I said before, that's not going to work. So instead what I have them do is make a long form video like this, which is scripting, and there's like very distinct parts of a script. Then what I can do is turn all of those parts into short form videos that lead them to the long form video. You're not only growing your Instagram, but you're also growing your YouTube simultaneously and nurturing your audience with just fantastic value on both fronts. And the way you automate it is ManyChat. I have other video about that you can go watch. And then lastly is call to actions. And now I'm going to keep it short because I've low-key been phasing out of call to actions as of late. Because for the sole reason of, when have you been asked to follow or subscribe and actually done so? Like if I told you to subscribe right now, odds are you're not doing it. People don't follow you based on you begging to follow. They follow because they simply want to. They need to like your content and you in order for them to want to see more of you. And like no one likes people who beg for stuff all the time. Like even in my YouTube videos, I don't ask people to subscribe because I want them to make the choice for themselves. Like obviously I'm going to give away all the best value I can, but it's up to them if they want to stick around and listen to me yap. And then when it comes to actually including a call to action, either don't and save the runtime, or have the call to action only benefit them. So that means like you're giving more stuff away via ManyChat. Again, the same video. And basically what ManyChat can do is allow you to use a keyword to send them a free resource. So if the keyword for this video was script, they would comment script on an Instagram video, and then that free resource would be sent to their DMs from me. So they're getting more value on the topic, and then that's when they'll make them like you, so they trust you more. Then they're more likely to follow you, because if they do that a couple of times, like, oh my god, Jackson is so awesome, he gives away so much stuff for free. Thank you. Call to action placement should be like 2/3 from the end. People put it at the end of the video, but like nobody really gets there. Most new creators' retention is really bad. So the odds that people actually make it all the way to the end are super low. So why would you put one of the most important things for engagement, if it's in the video at all, there? When it comes to revising your scripts, pretty much just cut out all the fluff that doesn't contribute to the value or the story or like the paradigm shift that we're trying to accomplish. There is a time for comedy and little gags and stuff, but the majority should be pushing the story along and forward in a direction that is going to benefit the viewer. Again, people don't like when you waste their times. And be really harsh on yourself here. The only way I got better was by ripping my scripts apart and redoing them over and over again until it felt like second nature. I had to write a lot of scripts to get as confident as I am in scripting. Okay, so now you know how to write bomb-ass storytelling scripts. Yay! Again, they're following the polarizing hook, V1 backstory, Epiphany Point, and V2 backstory, and maybe a call to action structure. And then if you use all the tenets, you're just going to have better scripts in general. And that's so cool. And if you want to learn more about what I do as a creative director, check out the link below. I'll see you later, I guess. Yeah, peace. See ya. Hey. It used to work before. Get out of here. Get on, get.